given them an opportunity in life. This is all, if you're just indoctrinating them, that's not social justice. You have created an illiterate, and we've got a lot of them. The man on the street, they go and interview these college kids, and they don't even know, who won the Civil War and things like that, because it's more about indoctrination. And I'm looking at this thinking, what about the kids whose parents are not involved in making sure that, in Bedford we get a lot of tutoring. We have a lot of parents paying for tutors, so the rich people are going to make sure that their kids are just fine. But what about the kids who are in Manchester or in these other cities who do not have the money to pay for tutors to elevate their kids? Because Bedford is not going to let their kids fall through the cracks, I can assure you of that. I lived in that town.
But 750 in Manchester.
Sorry.
Yeah, you raise a couple of good points. This is more than education. This is control.
Yeah.
This is a new constitution someday that people want that would take away a lot of our individual rights. So there's a lot at stake here, and the education is very important. You mentioned the Liberty Alliance. Okay, I'm familiar with that group, and I've worked with them a little bit. I think the way you fix this, you should take over the machine. That's the way you fix it.
Run for school board.
You start with the grassroots. Now, I having been a selectman 8 times, I saw my 3rd term in the House of Municipal and County Government, and I've been a town manager, a town administrator for about 20 years in other communities. I understand municipal finance law. There's ways of attacking it that way.
You're
okay?
right.
And the no mean no doctrine, which I think you're probably familiar with. If you take away all money for a particular component of this, then by law they can't spend money on it. At the same time, we need to get people elected to our school boards.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say, in the senior school board, I think the people from New Ipswich, every time they get elected, they're well-intended, they go there, they get schmoozed, they get indoctrinated, and it's all over. We need somebody to go there and get elected who's already on board.
Yes.
Right.
Not just well-intended,
Yes.
on board and is able to operate with a set of principles.
And we've got some of them in New Hampshire.
Now,
we do. But not the majority.
It would make sense if we could put a group together that could
Yes.
look at how to get to a school district meeting, whether it be traditional or SB2, doesn't matter. And organizations like Cornerstone and the Liberty Alliance could act as, and I don't think it's very hard, as a clearinghouse for ideas. For example, can we go to a school district meeting and put something on the warrant
Yes.
that
Others-
controls them
yeah.
and it's binding? And the answer is yes.
So
Okay?
you can do it where it's binding?
Yes.
Okay, because
You
we've
can
had
do it.
somewhere it's non-binding.
They'll tell you no,
Okay.
okay? But I know you can do it with towns,
Okay.
and they operate under the same set of laws for their annual meeting and money as a town. I'm more familiar with towns. But what I'm suggesting is that we put a group of people together from a number of different districts, maybe a couple of organizations could help facilitate it, and we come up with a plan to implement this fall. And the other piece is informing people like me. I'm on a committee for municipal and county government. I'm not on the education committee. I got 1 or 2 friends I'm trying to think of the one guy from northern part of the state. Cordelli, yeah. I get along well with him, okay? He's probably sympathetic toward your cause.
Yes.
He likes
Yeah,
323 too much.
Yeah.
Huh?
We're not forgiving him for liking 3. He wants to give the commissioner a blank check.
Oh, well, I don't.
I know.
I don't want to have a commissioner.
That's what Senator Avard
That's where I'm
wants
coming
next
from.
year. You have the best senator, by the way, in your area.
Yes, yes, you do.
Yeah,
He wants to put in a bill to elect our state board so they're
that's what
accountable.
I was just
So
gonna
they
say.
listen to us, and the same with
And
the
then have
commissioners.
those accountability. Yeah, I've been pushing that for years.
But I think there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, if people
Yes.
like this group contact me, I don't like Common Core, but I don't know who to talk to. My kids are in their late 40s, okay? I mean, you know,
Yep.
so,
Yep.
I need to hear from people like this.
We've
And
got
Yeah.
school
because,
board members from Alton that flipped, rejected Common Core. We've got school board members from Wakefield where they rejected Common Core. Some of those, and they know that they've got to fight back. They were thinking of helping to do workshop that might work with you. So not only do you get elected, but now, instead of going off to the New Hampshire School Boards Association so they can train you how to be a good little, whatever,
Soldier.
yeah, so they,
Sheeple.
how to empower you. How to empower you to stand up for your people.
the School Boards Association should operate, and I'm gonna use an analogy that's probably less than perfect, but I think it works. They should operate more like the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which gets people that are elected officials from all around the state. They ask for ideas for legislation, what they think they want to improve it. Not that I would agree with everything they do, okay, but they gather it from the bottom up,
Yeah.
and then their legislative
Yeah.
people go and try and get bills created that way. The school board is more top-down.
Yeah.
You know, there's another thing that Doris and I have also addressed, and that is, and you brought it up, is defunding. Look at your school budget and look for a line item that where you are paying either the New Hampshire School Boards Association or the New Hampshire Administrators Association.
Or special
Yeah.
ed.
Look for those two organizations, because oftentimes they're lobbying against parents, and you're paying for it.
But you pay in terms of professional dues to
Yes.
those organizations.
Cut it out of
And
your
then
budget.
the towns or the cities join them. The School Boards Association, whenever a law passes, they write policies and they shift them down, so it's top down. Some of those are bad. There was one where we put in, after we got rid of the home education problem, the next bill we did was 542, where we said parents have a right in a public school to say if we don't like something, it's objectionable material, we can opt out. We can talk to our principal, say, I'm gonna replace this with something at my expense, and we'll just go on and be happy together. But I'm not pulling my kid out, I wanna coexist, and we'll just fix the problem. So, they did a policy on this, and said if the principal says no, because you gotta get approval, you have no right to appeal. And we're like, no, you can't take that right away from people. They have the right to appeal to the school board and then up the food chain.
Yeah.
Although why you
But
appeal to the
that's
state
a great,
boards.
go through your budget, everybody go through the budget and look for those line items. It's the New Hampshire School Boards Association and the New Hampshire Superintendents or Administrators Association. And you pay them to lobby
Against
for
us.
the superintendents. You're not a superintendent, number one, or for the school boards. Now, the school board will say that they get some legal services from the
That you have to pay extra
but
for
you're
that.
paying, but I'm looking at this thinking, well, you know what, the teachers are paying for their lobbyists. Why are we paying for the superintendent's lobbyists, who oftentimes lobbies directly against parents? You know, when you're trying to get rid of Common Core, you're trying to institute parental rights. Oftentimes, we are on the opposite sides of the fence. And if you
And
want
you're
more
paying for
examples,
both
I
sides,
will be happy to give it, we'll go dig them up. We'll give you more examples of where they've been opposing what parents want, because this is not what the superintendents want. And I'm thinking, but wait a second, we're putting money into the budget, and we're paying you to lobby against parents? This is a crazy system we have set up.
But what's
That's one thing you can
even
do.
worse
So defund that line item.
Define that lineup,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I would be happy to work with a group.
We've
Look at
tried
the
to
thing.
try-
tried
It's a
2
law.
bills into your committee,
Huh?
and we get shot down. I think we got everything
Yes,
but
we've
Bert.
tried to put it into
What's
law, where
We
you,
tried
they
to put
can't
in a
use
bill
those
in that
funds.
committee,
Which committee?
It's killed,
municipal, I've
It's
tried
killed.
twice,
For what?
yes.
to allow, to get rid of this taxpayer.
Taxpayer-funded
See,
lobbyists.
the state, if they have state taxpayer money, it can't
Oh,
go to
okay,
lobbyists.
but you get, there are
The
problems with that
police and the
bill.
firemen show up,
Yeah.
and they argue against it, and that's what
We-
normally
it
kills
failed.
the bill.
It felt like
Okay.
20 to Bert.
But, I could debate that particular bill with you, but, not that I have a problem with the concept, but
Right,
the unintended consequences of it too.
Yeah.
Um,
so you
but
can do
what
it
I'm
at the
saying
local
is, I
level
would
though.
be happy to work with, some folks that are in the scenic district, and we could look at the other.
Look at your budgets and look for, what are they spending money on? Are they spending money on Common Core materials? go to them and say, you know, what material, I mean, I've seen it in my own budget. I go through my budget, in my school, every single year, because I'm also on the Taxpayers Association in Bedford. So I go through the school budget every year, and I look at each line, and I look at what they're spending money on. And I looked, and, you know, last year was $75,000 on Common Core aligned math materials. You know, so look at that and say, you know, you're spending money on Common Core stuff, you know, and we can help you, or talk to a homeschooler. They know what the best textbooks out there. If you're buying a new textbook that's fuzzy Common Core math, that's going to do nothing but make your children illiterate in math, then you go to them and you say, you know what, I'm seeing that you're buying this math book. Why would you buy this math book when this is such a better one over here? You know, why would you even do that?
What do you
There's
know
ways
about
could do that.
Singapore math?
Well, it depends, because they're selling Math and Focus as if it's Singapore math. Math and Focus is not Singapore math, but they call it Singapore math. If you're looking at Singapore math, you want to look at the primary edition. There's a difference. And the Math and Focus it can be extremely difficult for especially the younger children. If you're on Facebook, there's a group called U.S. Coalition for World Class Math. Join that group. I'm in that group, and there's teachers across America that contribute and go through these books, and they'll weigh in on them. But so be very careful. Yes, the primary edition, I think it's the primary edition of Singapore Math, is an excellent edition. But the American version, which is sold as Math and Focus, is a problem. Dr. Milgram would tell you to look at Russian textbooks. Yeah. Because
Our
they're
district
so-
bought the
they're quality.
Singapore math for their younger grades, and I think it's
It's the Math and Focus, I
Math and
guarantee you.
Focus.
They think it aligns with Common Core.
Right.
Mhm.
In Saxon math, they have a Common Core version and a non-Common Core version.
Yeah, you want-
Homeschoolers will not part with their non-Common Core. They're gonna pass it
No.
down through their kids.
There is a gentleman, his name is Vern Williams, and he was on the national math panel under George Bush, and he is renowned throughout the country as being one of the best math teachers out there. And I've read many of his articles. He's actually on that Facebook group, so you can actually talk to him if you wanted to. And he wrote an article one time, and I loved it, and I was thought, like, oh my God, that's such a great article. He has his parents, because they are dying to get their kids into his class because he teaches real math. He has his parents go out and scour the internet for old math textbooks because the new ones are so bad. So that, and you know, you can find them $10. You can find old ones $10. So he has them scour the internet for, you know, and they're dying to get into his class. And so he uses the old textbooks because he knows that the new ones are lousy. You know, so there's ways to do these things. There's ways to get around this stuff, but you have to be supportive of the teachers who want to get around it. You have to be supportive of your school if they want to get around it. The problem is too many are just walking the road. But we need to let them know, look, we know the Smarter Balance is not going to give us a true measurement of proficiency in these academic subjects. So if the scores fall, we're not going to rely on that. We're not going to come beating down your doors and saying, you know,
Paul Leather already panned, remember Heather Gage panned the kneecaps. Paul Leather has just come out and panned the Smarter Balance.
he is the Deputy Commissioner of Education in New Hampshire.
Right, he's saying that they were not gonna help our teachers.
Yeah, he's on record for saying.
Starting to throw them over out the window before we've even completed 1 year, because he wants to move pace in.
So you know, there's
Which
ways
is based
around
on
it.
Common
Yeah.
Core.
So if you, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was just gonna pick up something else. Well, I mean, we've talked a lot about all the wacky ideas of teaching and how we don't agree with that, and I haven't seen too many of the books, but I hear a lot of this is kind of pushing just a liberal agenda. And as someone, and probably many of you with Christian values, is some of this teaching pushing a homosexuality lifestyle? I've heard, or maybe I've seen one page of you know, 2 men, 2 women, a man and a woman, and teaching that all 3 of these lifestyles are acceptable lifestyles. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, I'm not sending if I start seeing these in my kid's book, I mean, he's only in kindergarten, I'll start ripping these pages right out. I don't need my kid going to school and being taught that.
You've got online assessments that you will never see, that's number one.
Yeah, you have to be
And
very
there's
careful.
things
And you
like,
won't see the
they'll
book
tell
either.
you, they'll show.
But I mean, has anybody seen some of
We've
that?
seen
Is
before.
that?
We saw that before Common Core. That happened in
Yeah.
Massachusetts a few years ago. I don't know if you remember the gentleman
Yes,
down in
yeah, I remember.
Massachusetts. It happened to him when his kid was in kindergarten.
Yeah.
He just said, look, just inform me when you're going to introduce this book to my kids in kindergarten. And he was arrested. And this was before Common Core. A lot of the problems that we're seeing with Common Core have been around for years and years and years. Is this part of the Common Core agenda? I mean, I couldn't point you to something. I could not point
Yeah.
you because again, it's been out there. You know,
Yeah,
that's where
yeah.
you have to really get involved and look at the curriculum. I mean, when I moved, I walk into the school and I flip through the books and I go through the books and I look at the end of the chapter. And you know what? That's very revealing when you go to the end of the chapter and you look at it, especially in a social studies book, and it's all analysis-based questions in a 4th grade textbook. And I'm going, where's the facts? That is a factual time. They need to be learning the facts on the Mayans and the Aztecs. Why are you asking them to analyze? They're in 4th grade, for heaven's sake. Look at those kind of things. But, we've seen that. We've seen, I mean, it goes with sex ed, it goes with all of those controversial things. And
But there's a bill,
You don't-
332, that's
Yeah.
gonna say, if we get it passed, and we're working on getting it passed,
Yep.
so they, with 2 weeks' notice, they'll put it on the website if it's controversial in that